At this point, I've finished my swatch with the open and closed cast on, or the knit and purl cast on, a variation of the long tail, and you can see quite clearly there's a purl there and there's a knit there, and it's basically the same on the other side, where you have a purl right down at the bottom and a twisted knit, but that's acceptable, a twisted knit there on the first row. I've left the tail and I've sort of fold it up into a little skein. I'm never going to trim the tail because it's going to help me remember which is the right side and which is the wrong side when I go to look at this later. Now that I have this one finished, and I've not done any stocking knit, I've just done some rows of ribbing, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put the two together, and I'm going to, oops, should have done this before I started. There we go. I'm going to take this off here, so this acts as a needle, and I'm going to hold the two pieces of knitting together, and I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to knit the two together. So I go through both one and then two, I wrap the yarn, pull through, both stitches fall off. If you've ever done a 3-needle bind off, you'll say, oh, it's 3-needle bind off. And I go through both stitches. Now you'll notice as I'm working, I happen to be going, in this case, through the back loop, which is the leading edge, because I do knit combo. You're probably going to go the other way. And I'm also going right into a stockinette. I'm not knitting and purling, and the two strands are going together. So this way, what I've done, will be doing, is I'll be joining my sampler together, and this is how I make the little flaps. Now, as I say, if you've never done a 3-needle bind off, this is basically how a 3-needle bind off is done, except you bind the stitches off after you knit them. In this case, we're just going to knit them off onto a new needle. The two pieces go together. And this is, oops, since we're going to keep this, it pays for me to be a little conscientious. Oops. And get this stitch. Oh, of course it's undone. Now, there's a good example. If a stitch unravels on you, put it back on the needle and then just rework it. And now I'm going to put both of these stitches onto one needle. I'm going to work them together, and I'm going to continue doing this across the row. And now, almost done, you see how your flaps are created. Now you'll also notice I did not work in because I think it's too bulky, and I've done the same mistake. Only caught half the stitch. This yarn is a bit splitty. There we go. There we go. Just reposition. Obviously, I do that seamlessly because I make a lot of mistakes, and I've learned over the years simply to resolve my mistakes on the fly. So there, almost. Just a few stitches left. Just a few stitches left, and the needle falls out. Alright. That one's split. Oh, my goodness. I think this is one of the things that new knitters panic at. They panic when they drop a stitch. They panic when they don't get it quite right. And not me. I just plow ahead. Ow, this, I'm just looking at my stitch count, and I see that this stitch here belongs with those two, and then I have 4 and 4. I do have 4 and 4, and now this needle's falling out. Well, you're not likely to have this kind of problem if you're not working far away from where you're viewing, because I'm not. Alright, we're going to cheat at this point. Here's the cheat. We're going to take 1, 2, 1 from the back, one from the front, one from the back, which is just unraveled, one from the front, one from the back. No, that didn't work. Alright, let's try it this way. Front, and then the back, and then the front, and then the unraveled stitch, and then the front, and then the back, and then the front, and the back. Okay, so now that we have them all on the needle, now we'll transport them back to the left needle, since that's what needs to happen. We know this one's knit because our yarn is in that stitch, and now we're ready to knit two together, knit two together, and knit two together, and knit two together, and finish the row. Now, as I say, chances are you're not going to be doing this 3 feet with your arms stretched out at maximum, just about trying to keep what you're doing in the focus of the camera, and it will be a lot easier for you. So that's how we join them together. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to think about the selvage. On this first piece, I did a very simple selvage, which is I knit every row, every stitch, making sure to try and keep my stitches firm and tight as I started the row so that I didn't have oversized loops at the end of the row. This next piece I'm going to do about another 1.25 inches now of stockinette before I put my next cast on. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to be doing a different selvage, because there's different selvages. I think sometimes people think that the only thing you can do with the selvage is slip the stitch, or maybe slip it and twist it at the same time and have a slipped twisted chain edge. No, there's lots of different selvages you can do. So as we do our cast-ons and think about our cast-ons, let's think about our edges too, and we'll think about what we can do with the edges to make beautiful edges on our knitting as well.